Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool.
Yeah, you want to talk about the
Yes.
election one? So the election one we'll put in the second half, so that'll be even further out.
Yes.
Yeah. This thing's never coming out. Alright. Yeah, well, it wasn't actually much I wanted to talk about, really, but I was, so this
I just feel like we've milked the mods dry. We started.
I could talk about mods forever.
We've talked about to the point of saturation.
Oh, just you. Yeah, right, okay. So, got the Canadian election that happened, I suppose, coming up from our perspective. And
what are your predictions?
I think that I'm always wrong about these things.
You weren't wrong last time.
Well, about the United States one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought I would be wrong, because but I think that the Conservatives will win. I'm almost feeling they're going to win a majority, even though it seems like the Liberals are kind of ahead in the polls. But I think it's going to be a case of the polls are lying to the not on purpose. It's just the kind of, I don't think polls, at least in Canada, I don't think they're being deceptive. I think it's just the kind of people that are answering the polls are saying Liberal versus Conservative. I think the Conservatives, you see the local support, people still hating the Liberals, people still putting up signs for the Conservatives more often.
Yeah. It depends actually what neighborhood you're in.
Well, what I've noticed is that there's more Liberal signs out in general, but they tend to be the ones that they put up themselves, and the ones on the buildings and houses, it seems to be more Conservatives.
Yeah.
But there is some people that have strangely flipped back to Liberals once Carney came in. So it could be, I could see the Liberals winning potentially. But my prediction, Conservative and maybe even a majority. I'll say Conservative majority just so I'll be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people, I think the Conservatives are doing everything in their power to lose the election. And I think that Carney, people are looking at it and they're going, oh yeah, he's got the same cabinet, but he's a different person, so we want him. Woo. Because a lot of people really don't like Pierre Poilievre. They perceive, I don't really understand this one, but they perceive him as being similar to Trump, and a lot of Canadian news tells Canadians not to like Trump. I don't know what the actual Canadians think, because it seems like all Canadians do is listen to for instance, when the trucker protests were going on, there was a lot of Canadians who were saying that they don't want to have Canadian flags out. They think that nationalism is cringe and that not cringeworthy, and that being nationalist is bad. And then Trump puts out these tariffs, and suddenly Canadians are the most nationalistic country on earth.
The worst part of Canadian culture is not wanting to be American.
And it's this,
we have a negative culture. Here I came up with a comparison, right? So if you're British, you hate the French.
Yeah.
That's a part of being British.
Yeah.
If you hate Americans, you're Canadian. That's a part of hating Americans. It's not exactly true, but that's the sort of culture I get from the dislike of America, and that's not healthy. The British hatred, I know it's funny calling hate healthy, but the British hatred is healthy.
Yeah.
The Canadian hatred isn't.
Well, because we're very similar to Americans. And also, they're our friends and our allies.
Yeah.
And also, they're doing really good on the world stage compared to basically any other country.
And, before or a certain point in time, you're saying, the person's I lived a little bit here, and then I lived in Vancouver, and then...
Yeah, they were joined in many ways in brotherhood in a lot of ways. And I think... I also don't think that's entirely a Canadian identity. I think that is, again, a media-fabricated Canadian identity.
Yes.
I don't... And I think that, for whatever reason, the Liberal Party is the nationalist party, and they are the anti-American party.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's weird, because the same people that were saying, oh, you shouldn't have flags because, nationalism is bad, but then they're also saying, oh yeah, we're nationalists. I've seen a lot more Canadian flags flying around, I think.
It's kind of pathetic.
But it's can't you just love your country always?
Yeah,
Or I've also seen people... Now maybe this is me being a hypocrite here. I've seen a lot of people hating on Wayne Gretzky, because apparently he lives in the States now or something.
Yeah.
And maybe this is me being hypocritical, because I'm like, why hate Wayne Gretzky? But maybe if I truly love Canada, then I should hate on Wayne Gretzky too. But I just see him as the legend he was, rather than any... I don't even know what he does now. He lives in the States, okay.
Yeah.
That is... Okay, sure. But I think he's a legend regardless.
He's the great one.
Yeah. His record was beaten recently, and there was a lot of people cheering because they're like, a real Canadian, well, Russian, but a real Canadian has the record now instead of Gretzky, who betrayed us for the States.
Even with that, just a side tangent, Gretzky is still the great one.
Oh yeah, because Gretzky has all the records.
Yeah, he has all records, but the other thing is, the guy who beat his record, was he playing against the same teams?
Yeah.
And did he have the same teammates? Now, that being said, Gretzky's teammates were also amazing. They just get overshadowed by, like, his goalie got, like, 2 goals, slap-shotting with a goalie.
No, the Oilers were unbeatable. They were amazing.
Yeah, like, the goalie would slap-shot with the goalie's stick.
Yeah.
And he got 2 goals.
But,
And they had, like, an amazing defense as well.
I feel kind of bad. I don't even... Ovechkin? Is that the guy that got it? I'm not even... That broke the record?
I don't know.
But, like, I mean, good for him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no. That's amazing what he did.
I don't think there's really anyone... Crosby, maybe? I'm not much of a hockey guy.
Yeah.
But Crosby maybe got close? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's weird that what the media tells... well, maybe I'm wrong here, but because the problem with the zeitgeist is that the zeitgeist is informed by your observation, and your observation can only be mostly through the media, which means you think the media can tell everyone what they're thinking, but it might not actually be, right?
Yeah.
So... Right, so that said, I don't think there's much difference between the conservatives and the liberals. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Carney is an amazing economist who's going to save the economy. I hope that Pierre Poilievre is going to bring it home, make people have money, make them rich, make them happy and healthy with good food and a good home and whatever else he says all the time. But I think both of them are just... We work for the rich corporate elites to turn Canadians into a weird chattel country and just extract it for every... Like, the thing that really... And then you have the Green Party, which has a co-leadership. They have 2 leaders, which so they're a mess. Like, okay, what if you win? What are you going to do?
Put Elizabeth May in charge of Canada, and then get into a bunker.
Well, I want Elizabeth May. Like, if Elizabeth May was in charge of the Green Party, I'd vote for the Greens.
Yeah.
And we don't, to be clear, because a lot of non-Canadians don't seem to understand this, and a lot of Canadians also don't seem to understand this, we don't vote for the leader of the country. No. Only the members of the party vote for the leader of the country.
Yes.
So, if Pierre Poilievre wins, Connor will have actually voted for the leader of the country, because you voted for Pierre because you're a member of the Conservative Party.
Was. I no longer am.
Oh, it has to be renewed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they keep asking me to renew. I was like, no, I already paid my money. I got what I wanted. Now leave me alone.
Yeah. So,
and I voted for him because out of all the options of who it could be, like if we look at our last 2 elections, we had
Conservatives had terrible.
We had Aaron O'Toole and
that lady, maybe?
No, it was a different guy.
Okay.
But they both sucked.
Well, it's funny because I've seen a lot of Canadians on Reddit say, so there's your problem right there, said Aaron O'Toole would have been a way better choice for the Conservatives. He's way more palatable. Yeah, that's because you would have never voted for him.
Yeah.
He's good for a left-winger.
Yeah.
Who isn't going to vote for him anyways.
Yeah.
He sucked.
And so when I looked at all the options that we had when running for a new Conservative leader, who is the most conservative of all these? It is Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
Because until that point, all the Conservative leaders have been liberals.
And Pierre Poilievre, at the time as well, he was doing something that world leaders hadn't been doing, which was going on to podcasts, talking to people for hours on end, and
releasing videos on YouTube instead of traditional TV.
Yeah, like he was actually a much more like down-to-earth man of the people, not in the sense that he's ever worked a hard day in his life, but in the sense that he was actually talking to people.
Yeah.
Which, until Trump did that, I still don't think many people do it.
No.
It's pretty rare still.
Like Bernie Sanders did it.
I think Carney's actually been doing it a little bit, possibly. Yeah. But it wasn't something... Bernie Sanders did it as well. But it's not something... And I guess Rand Paul as well, if you want to go for like the libertarian candidates and stuff. But like a real politician hadn't done that before. So that was quite refreshing. And he seemed to be saying a lot of good things, which was nice. But I think... his weird obsession with the carbon tax has really made me sour on him.
Well, so...
And it's also really weakened his position.
Yeah.
Because Carney just said, oh yeah, well, I'm going to lower it to 0%, and then what do you have?
Yeah, well, he has a bunch... So this is actually one of the deceptions. This is the Liberal campaign, is all that Carney... All that Pierre was running on was getting rid of the carbon tax. Whereas Pierre actually has a lot of other things he's talked about. There's a lot of other things he's talked about beforehand.
No, but it's his own fault, right? Because all his ads are like, axe the tax, we're going to get carbon tax Carney.
So that happened there, and then, so that was their strategy to go against it.
And it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was super easy to destroy the Conservatives, because all you had to do was say, you're right, carbon tax bad. And then,
Yeah. No, it's like, please shut up about the carbon tax, Pierre.
Now, what's interesting, though, what I like, is both of them keep doing concessions that I don't think either of them want to make, but they both want to win.
Yeah.
So, for instance, both of them are saying they're going to lower income tax.
Yeah.
Both of them are saying they're going to get rid of the carbon tax. Both of them are saying they're going to reduce immigration.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yes, let them eat each other. Yes. Now, it's different degrees. For instance, the Liberals want to lower income tax by 1.25%.
Yeah.
Whereas the Conservatives want to lower it by like
2.7.
Yeah, so neither of them want to do it by much at all. But hey, it's a start. And then I think Pierre wants to lower immigration. He wants to put an immigration cap that's slightly lower than what the Liberals want to do.
Yeah.
But both of those, our immigration caps still aren't, I mean, they're not good right now, but that's not the main problem in a lot of ways.
So the other thing that he wants to do is he wants to bring us back to our old immigration system.
Yeah.
Which...
Well, who does, Pierre?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him say that.
He says we have the best immigration system in the world, we're going to return it to what it was, we're only going to get the people that can pass all these qualifications and tests, so our immigrants are actually going to be useful people.
Because this podcast is old enough. You will remember many moons ago me saying Canada has the best immigration on Earth. Because I believe we did have it for quite a while.
Yeah, so Pierre wants... That's one of the things his talking points is bringing back that system.
If he actually does... I haven't heard him say that. I want to look that... Because he's
dodged... He's said it several times now.
He's like dodged and scrolled around immigration so many times. And he's also said... Like, he did a video on immigration where he didn't actually say anything. He's like, yeah, immigration's too high. It's like, okay, but what are you going to do? Right? Like, so... I want to see him give some numbers. Like, I'm going to reduce it to 0 for 7
well, unfortunately, some of his ministers are Kalistani.
Doesn't mean that they'll... Right, because they're Canadian, right? So it doesn't mean...
No, they're not. They're Kalistani.
I hope that's not the case. Like, I hope that they are like... Or even if they are, like, they're very much Kalistani patriots. I hope they're like, we got ours. Sucks to be you. Yeah. But just because they're from some place, right? Doesn't... Now, the other thing, Carney has a huge advantage in my eyes over Pierre. Carney doesn't really speak French.
Yeah.
Pierre does. So Carney, he's already higher up in my eyes, right? Because we don't need another French pretty boy in charge, like, with a name I can't spell.
Pierre Poilievre is from Alberta.
His name's Poilievre.
Yeah, he's the Albertan French Canadian.
And he can speak French.
Yeah, he's Albertan French Canadian. He's not Quebec French Canadian.
And he looks like Trudeau. I'm still convinced
they should have kept his glasses.
I'm still convinced they're brothers.
He should have kept the glasses. He shouldn't have done it.
Because he's adopted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could be brothers.
But he knows who his mother is.
Right, but they could be... Wait, no, that doesn't work then. What if they're brother-in-laws?
Half-brothers?
Well, no, because... No, how does that work?
I don't know if they know who his father is. He does know his mother.
I think Pierre Poilievre's father is Pierre Trudeau. But that means that he wouldn't be related to Justin Trudeau, I guess.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But I think... they could have the same stepfather in that sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because doesn't he look like a not bald Pierre Trudeau? And his name's also Pierre. He was named after his father. Like, well, you do that, and then you make him look a bit more ugly and like weird, and bam, you got... Yeah. So then we got the People's Party. They're not a real party. But if they could be, because their leader used to be the leader of the Conservatives, right? And my problem with them, and problem with the Conservatives as well, they both talk a lot about we're going to get a whole bunch of money by working on our natural resources because we've got tons of natural resources. And Canada does have tons of natural resources. And I'm actually, I'm very environmental. Like, I did environment in school. I'm very environmentally minded. However, you want to make us rich getting this minerals? Woo, we need those. Go for it. Because, it's hypocritical for me to be using this microphone and say we shouldn't mine steel for the microphone stand or something, right? Yeah. And copper for the wire and everything else. Yeah, go mine it. The problem is, none of them have talked about this. Our mining companies don't make us any money.
Yes.
They steal from us. They're American, they're Chinese, and they're Canadian. But all they do is they steal from us. Then they go bankrupt, they leave a poisonous mess, they ruin the natural water supply, they ruin the land, they poison the land, they leave us with a huge bill to clean it up. Like right now in the Yukon, we're off by like $25 million because we're left with such a big mess that we can't do a lot of stuff we were planning to do with our budget because we have to spend it containing this horrible disaster that the mining company made. And what we changed the law recently so that the mining companies have to give us the money for the cleanup before they start mining as sort of a security deposit. Yeah. This was Victoria Gold, I believe. Yeah. But what happened was they said, but we're going to bring so many jobs. Can we just pay only half up front? And we're like, yeah, sure, because we don't care about our people. And then they're like, oh, sorry, we're bankrupt, bye.
And they don't bring jobs.
And they bring people from the outside. And then we don't... So the money, the resources are Canada's, right? So they don't pay anything for them. We get like 3 cents an ounce on gold or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing. They don't bring any money to it. And these companies are rapacious. Like, there was those protests in Panama where the guy got shot. And now the guy that shot them wasn't, I believe, part of the Canadian mining company. He's a lawyer for them, possibly, though, actually. But those protesters, 100% on the right in my mind.
Yeah.
Because the Panama government was like, oh yeah, let's let the Canadian mining companies come in, destroy all our land, give us nothing in return, and then leave. So it makes... And you're like, okay, yeah, but at least you're getting resources. Like, not really, because... Well, there's 2 things to that. First of all, they're poisoning your land to the point where it is actually affecting you. Like, your water supply is in danger. You have to spend money containing it, or people will die, get sick. Like, the disaster in the Yukon, they had this giant dam across a valley holding back, like a tailings pond, basically. And it collapsed. And so this huge conflux of poisonous water just went everywhere. And it didn't... I think they tested the water and it didn't get into it, but they're working really hard to stop it from getting any further. The second thing is, they're not mining... Like, especially the Canadian companies, they're not mining uranium and copper and cobalt and
iron.
They're mining stuff we don't need. They're mining, like, gold and diamonds and like, huge quantities that we don't need for anything. They're getting maximum bang for your buck. Let's just extract... For their buck, not our... So, I would love to see, like, the People's Party or Pierre Poilievre, or even Carney, say, we have Canada, so many natural resources, there's no reason we should be poor. We are going to make the mining companies hire Canadians...
Nationalize them.
Give us money. Because Canada's resources belong to Canadians.
Yeah.
So we're going to put a flat 5%, 10%, whatever you want, extraction fee on all those resources, and we're going to make everyone rich.
And they can't leave Canada until they're processed by us.
And then we're going to sell them to... I think Pierre actually talked about this, not on the mining side, but on the production side. We're going to make... Actually, no, it was Justin Trudeau that was doing it, right? I forgot, because everyone's the same in these 2 parties. Trudeau was saying, we're going to have giant, like, iron factories. We're going to make all the cleanest resource production in the world, and we're going to sell it to the world, and everyone's going to be cleaner. That was actually Trudeau's policy near the end, where he was saying, we're going to help climate change by being the producers that do it better.
No, Pierre's is, we're going to get rid of dollars for dictators, because he loves alliterations. But he has problems with them because he's saying them in English and his first language is French, so he stumbles over the dollars for dictators. And I just think, just take him on, Pierre, and say it straight.
Have you seen... the Beaverton did an article where they said Pierre Poilievre's slogan machine broke down, so he started confusingly saying, we're going to rink the dink, and we're going to... Because he's just a man of slogans.
He really likes alliterations. It's probably because his name's PP.
And rhymes. Like, axe the tax, bring it home. He even just like little quick sayings. Makes him sound folksy. Yeah. We're going to bring it home. I'm a career politician. I was in the political club when I was in high school. But I'm one of you. No, not that I have a bias.
So, I think that the Conservatives are going to win. I think it will be a close majority or a close minority, like, in their favor. I kind of have the hope... This is my, what is it called? The psychologist had like the shadow self or the dark side. This is my dark side. I hope the Liberals win with a massive majority.
I've been thinking that too, actually.
So everyone can see that they are no different.
Well, my concern right now, actually, right, is that if the Conservatives win, a minority or a majority, either way, minority would probably be worse. But if they win either way, people will be like, oh yeah, we saved Canada. And then things will just continually, slowly get worse, right?
Yeah.
But if the Liberals win again, people might actually start going, we need a party that will change something. Like, start looking at the People's Party.
If the Liberals win, there is the potential of both Quebec and Alberta having a referendum. And even if the referendum doesn't go anywhere, if the Liberals win and those referendums happen, that is then, there can be new parties forming going... Like, you know how the Quebecois is really annoying?
Yeah.
We could get, like, an Alberta version of the Quebecois, because there's a lot of people in Alberta.
Did you see...
And then, can you imagine what Parliament would be like if we have the Liberals, Conservatives, the Quebecois, and the Albertan equivalent all fighting each other?
Yeah, beautiful. Did you see, before Trudeau stepped down, like, the predictions on the polls before Trudeau stepped down, it was like 98%... Conservative super majority, basically, or maybe it's just majority, but it was like Liberals were doing terrible. It was so bad. I don't know if you saw this, but the Bloc Québécois was running ads in English.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, English speakers, you want to vote for us instead of Trudeau?
Yeah.
And people are like, yeah, I might vote for the Bloc. It's like, because the Bloc is a separatist party.
Yeah.
Their whole purpose is to get it out of Canada, basically.
Yeah.
But they were running ads. They're like, we're French. We don't want anything to do with Canada. That's our whole thing. And yet, they were running ads in English because they're like, yeah, English speakers are going to vote for us. And English speakers I was seeing were saying, yeah, I'm going to vote for them. So my concern about my majority vote prediction for the Conservatives, for some reason, YouTube has been recommending to me endless videos of these right-wing Canadian lunatics talking about how, even CBC is against Carney. Oh, the Conservatives pull ahead. Oh, the polls are fake. They're so like, there's no way Pierre Poilievre can lose. Yeah. Everything's, and whenever I see people that deluded, I think now it's going to be the other way around, because that was happening a lot with Kamala, right? Where there's people saying, oh yeah, Kamala's going to get the biggest thing ever. It's going to be huge. Everyone's against him. The media hates him, and even the people that are on his side hate him. And then he got the first Republican majority vote in like 25 years or something. Yeah. And I think that these right-wing Canadian YouTubers, they're putting the blinders on, and it might be to the point where, if I was a member of that audience, it's like, oh yeah, Conservatives are going to win. I don't think I'm going to wait for the votes to roll in. I don't got to do anything, right? Yeah. And then Liberals win. So now up here, the Rhino Party isn't running a candidate, and the People's Party isn't running a candidate. Yeah. So we've got 4 choices.
That's kind of scuppered my vote.
So I didn't want to vote for anyone because, like I said, the co-leadership for the Greens, I don't like. The Liberals and Conservatives, 2 sides of the same coin to me. Although I do like how they're forcing each other to say more and more things I like. Conservatives, I'd probably lean slightly more towards, because at least here they're saying they might not do the hunting rifle bans and stuff, which are ridiculous that the Liberals are doing. We don't have gun violence problems, and the Liberals have just keep taking away the guns and making it more and more ridiculous.
Believe it or not, Canada has per capita the 5th most guns.
5th?
Yeah.
So what, we got Switzerland, the United States.
It's one of the Arab countries.
One of the Arab countries, and maybe like Mexico or Australia or something.
No, Australia doesn't have guns.
Well, I think they still do. It's just
it's New Zealand has the guns, not Australia. Australia got rid of all their guns. They had one bad event when they actually got rid of them, like more than the UK.
And I was also thinking, they actually had like a couple mass shootings there, but
no, they had one.
They had one more recently though in Whitechapel or whatever.
Yeah, they had recent ones now after the gun ban.
So good thing the gun ban was there. Yeah. But the NDP I considered voting for simply because if they didn't have Singh, right? Because I was thinking, I want there to be a left-wing party that cares about the working class, that will actually get something done. That's an alternative to the parties. That's not mainstream. And I was like, if only we had something like that. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, if only there was... This is what I was thinking, right? If only there was some socialist party I could vote for, right? And I was like, but there's the NDP. But their leader, Singh, he was just a liberal toady for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
He has done very little to prove he won't do the same. He's tried to distance himself, but it's I don't trust him.
His watch doesn't even disappear when it goes beneath the table and comes back up again.
He needs to step down for the good of the NDP, right? Okay. So I was thinking, and then the Greens, like I said, co-leadership is a mess. So I wasn't going to vote for anyone though, right? And then we got this NDP flyer in the mail.
Yeah.
I won't say her name because I don't want to go too far into it, but too close to doxing ourselves and her and everything. But here's what she's talking about. While the Liberals and Conservatives are protecting billionaires, Jagmeet Singh and I are fighting to make a difference for you. We will lower your bills with grocery price caps. We'll build homes for families and have a Canada strong and free from Donald Trump. It's the worst flyer I've ever seen. I want to go out now and vote against the NDP.
Do you want to talk about grocery bill caps?
Well, I want to talk about this whole thing. Okay, so...
Do you know about grocery bill caps?
Yes. That has never worked. This is what socialist countries do.
That's what destroyed Romania.
And then their currency collapses and the country collapses. And
Romania was... so, in a socialist country, like a communist country...
Yeah.
Romania had one of the biggest caps on everything. It wasn't just grocery bills. There's something else about Romania. It is the only communist country that had a violent revolution. And why it happened is Romania was always trying to prove itself to be more communist than Russia. That was their whole gig.
Well, one of the theories for Romania's violent revolution, they had this weird policy. I don't know if you know about this, but Romania had this weird policy where people had to have children.
Yeah.
It was the opposite of China's thing.
Yeah.
They basically had every incentive in the world. Like, you have to have children. You have to have children. And so people were having children that hated children.
Yeah.
And so you had, like, hordes of young men who had parents that didn't love them, looking for meaning in life. And it's like, oh, let's have a revolution.
Yeah.
So that's probably part of it. But yeah, they did these grocery caps, and it just destroyed their economy.
Yes.
Because if you cap the grocery prices, the farmers will stop being farmers. They're like, well, I can't be a farmer anymore. I'm going to go do something else.
Yes.
I'm going to go be a politician or someone that makes money, because I'm only... It's like farmers are operating on thin enough margins as it is. It's not like they're inflating prices. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be rich, yeah. It's crazy. I think grocery price caps is a terrible idea. Then, and Canada's strong and free from Donald Trump. Last time I checked, Donald Trump wasn't here.
Yeah.
So I think we're already doing that. And focusing on... I don't care about Donald Trump. Like, okay, I care about him in a geopolitical sense.
Yeah.
In terms of Canada, I don't really care. Like, first of all, the tariffs, right? Tariffs are done on your own citizens.
Yes.
Prices increasing for us is because we are doing retaliatory tariffs on our own citizens.
Yeah.
That's our fault. That's not theirs.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that they're buying less of our stuff, probably bad for our economy. Sure, possibly. But that's their problem. Like, that's not...
Yeah.
That's not my number one... Now, maybe I'd be wrong and the economy will suffer really badly because... But what are we going to do? like, we'll do a retaliatory tariffs and then we'll just build our country strong. And maybe, I keep thinking, maybe we can actually get rid of the interprovincial tariffs that we have on ourselves, which are ridiculous, that nobody wants to fix. Maybe Donald Trump will have enough pressure that we can actually do something about that.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get rid of the equalization payments,
but
except for the territories.
But I'm also sick of all these fake, like nationalists that are like, oh, now I care because it's this guy I don't like. Like, do you think... Now, first of all, Trump did all these tariff things like in his first term, and they were just, he wasn't announcing them broadly, right? It wasn't the same scale. So this is bigger, this is different. But people create tariffs, they get rid of tariffs, it goes back and forth behind the scenes a lot. But what he's doing more is he's doing this in front of everyone, right? Yeah. And he's also doing a bit more extreme, a bit more, and he's talked about annexing Canada and that sort of thing. Do you think if there, like, let's say Kamala was in charge and she was doing the tariffs, I think we'd still be upset at the United States. Yeah. I don't think being anti-United States would be the thing. It would be more like, we need someone that can deal with Kamala and figure it out, and we need someone that can explain to her that we're stronger together, and like, it wouldn't be this like, hey, if you vote for me, then you can stick it to Donald Trump.
I had this kind of terrifying experience where I was talking to people about the tariffs and everything that's going on, and Trump and things, and the conversation got to the point in the end where I basically said to them, I don't care about talking about this anymore, can we just not?
Yeah.
But during the conversation, I said, I've considered, like, in the coming bit, potentially moving to America.
Yeah.
And I said, there are some advantages to being in America. And the person I was talking to had one of those little micro-expression moments where, like, their eyes, like, widened, their pupils narrowed, their nostrils flared. And it was this look of, like, animalistic hatred to me saying the statement, there are some advantages to being American.
So, Americans, they're complaining about high housing prices, high immigration, high food prices and everything. So their food prices, way cheaper than here.
Yeah.
Their housing prices are some of the cheapest on earth relative to income.
Yeah.
And they're complaining about where they're at right now, right? Yeah. Like, they are one of the richest countries on earth with the easiest to afford houses on earth. Their immigration levels, percentage-wise, way lower than Canada, the UK, Australia. Yeah. Way lower. Actually, I'm not sure about Australia. I don't know. I think they were doing poorly for a while. I don't know what they're doing
Australia fixed themselves.
So, but like the UK especially is like ridiculous. Canada and the UK are horrible, but UK is like on its whole other level.
You say that Canada's on a whole other level. Canada's on a whole other level. We're something like only 80% second generation.
The UK has a higher population than us.
Yeah.
They're a little tiny island.
Yes,
they're a big island, but they're an island. That's like the size of Nova Scotia.
Yeah, but it's like, I think there's only like 60% Canadians, actually.
Yeah. Like, our immigration's crazy, but the UK is like, they're cramming people into a place that doesn't have physical room. Forget about like the money and this. Yeah, but both very bad.
Yeah.
But the United States, they have illegal immigration as a problem. Yeah. Which is far less of an issue, right? Yeah. And then they're you can buy a house.
And on the side of the legal immigration of the United States is the only country on the planet that has a country of immigrants that has a melting pot. It is the only country on the planet that is their culture. And their melting pot is you come to America and you become American. No other country has ever had that cultural policy. Stop lying. That is one of my pet peeves, but it is.
Well, wasn't it Trudeau? Like the first Trudeau, his big thing was Canada. Like he literally said melting pot. Like,
yes, he tried to make that a thing. He tried to force Canada.
Like I think he literally used coined the term, possibly even melting pot. Like he was huge on that.
Yeah,
I think that was him.
Yeah, well that is a lie.
I don't know. Or we got the Chinese Canadians and the
no,
British
we had
Canadians.
98% either English or French Canadians.
But yeah. Anyways, Donald Trump thing. I'm like. If she said, like, I'm a strong negotiator, I'll deal with him, okay, fair enough. But free from Donald, like, can we not work with our allies?
Yeah.
Why are we fight? I mean, I'm looking at it from, I guess, I don't know, Sargon released a video recently, actually, there he was saying, Trump, can you please stop attacking Canada? Like, they're your closest ally. And I'm looking at it from the other perspective. Can we stop attacking Trump? Like, he's our closest ally. Can we?
Yeah, he retaliates. That's his whole thing.
Well, I think he's either doing some sort of smoke and mirrors geopolitics thing behind the scenes, or he's gone crazy. It is a bit weird, the stuff he's doing. I'm not. The thing is, I think Hitler would approve. Now because not because I think he's doing something Hitler would do. Okay, I'm not calling him Hitler, but because what Hitler said about democracy was that if everyone could see the solution to a problem, you wouldn't need to elect a leader to fix the problem because you would just do the solution. Which means that a good leader, when faced with a problem that no one can solve, will do the things nobody would think are the correct answer, right?
Yeah.
So if everyone is disagreeing with Trump, that could also mean that he is one of the few people that can see the solution to whatever problem he's trying to solve, right? And these... this is one of those things that will take months or years to play out and see what the actual beneficial result is, or what he's actually trying to do, if we ever learn what he's trying to do. Like, this could be a peaceful negotiation. This could be based around getting some sort of energy deal with India. Like, there's so many... It could be to cover up his scandal where he cheated on his wife. Like,
it could be to fight China.
It could be to fight China. It could be to get Russia on his side for something. It could... Like, there's so many things it could be. I also have a theory that I'm kind of scared about, because he's been working so closely with Elon Musk, right? My terrified theory is that this is a trial run of getting Grok to run the presidency through the president. He's just asking it what to do and then doing whatever it says. And
I'm going to have to be transparent here for, I think, transparency reasons. So where everyone was lamenting the crash of the stock market?
Yeah.
Guess who got into the stock market and bought a bunch of Tesla and Nvidia?
Oh, really? Nice.
Yes.
Good for you.
Because it dropped like $20.
Yeah.
I didn't get it at the maximum dip, but I got it at the bottom. So it's called a dead cat bounce. Which the stock market has such silly names like a bear market, a bull market, dead cat bounce. So a dead cat bounce is the market crashes, then it goes back up again, then it flops, but flops slightly less hard. So on the second flop is where I bought.
And so you'll hope it goes up instead of down, I guess.
Well, it's not even that. Even if it goes down, this is my TFSA. So this is, I put the money in there, and then 20, 30, 40 years later, I come back and take it out.
Right. Well, Nvidia is a company, I think, that, I don't know if, I think a lot of tech companies don't have legs. I think, like, Microsoft is a company that'll be around for a long time. Now, Nvidia does hardware, so they do, well, Nvidia doesn't exactly do hardware, because TMC does hardware, right? Like, Nvidia, I don't know how that works. They own TMC?
Yeah.
And then they do a bunch of really impressive, like, AI stuff.
Yeah. I also put money into those big Fortune 500 evil companies.
Like, Pepsi is the company that just...
I put... Vanguard.
Yeah, okay.
Because Vanguard has always grown. Even when it's crashed, it's always grown.
Like one of those hedge funds.
Yeah, so I put money into Vanguard. Yeah.
But
most of my money went to Tesla.
So when they buy your house, you'll be like, hey, I own part of my house still because I own a bit of Vanguard. Yeah. So it's hard to say what the end result. The price caps, terrible idea. I don't know what they're thinking. That's crazy. Like
They probably also want to raise minimum wage. That's
less crazy. Like, that has, you can argue, like, the positives and negatives, right? Can you argue any positives on grocery price caps? Like, that's...
Not really.
Like, that's madness. And also, minimum wage in Canada is pretty high, and it's not...
So, before lockdown, I was trying to get a job with the farmers market, the fireweed market. They were offering $17 an hour, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I looked at the same job posting for this year. It's $21 to $23 an hour now. And that is around a 5-year period. That is a very big increase in offer for a 5-year period.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of jobs. Like, when I was looking for jobs initially, a lot of jobs' base price was like 17, 16, sometimes even 14 early on.
But our minimum wage is around like $14 or $15 an hour.
Yeah. But most jobs are now offering $20 an hour.
But there's disadvantages to a high minimum wage, of course. Like, there's a farmer's, what do you call it? A farm around here. And they offered minimum wage, like, actually as low as they could make it.
Yeah.
And they said, like, we'll do minimum wage, you have to work these really long hours, and we can't afford to give you any bonuses or benefits or anything because we're the small farm. However, we will give you all the food you could want and a house.
Yeah.
Like, that was their deal, right? And now in theory, like, if we had a lower minimum wage, they could actually get more hands-on and say, look, we can't pay you in normal things, but we have a lot of land and we have a lot of food. So we can't give you any money, but we can give you a house and we can give you all your meals, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's groups like them that a lower minimum wage.
And also, eliminating a minimum wage makes it so you can't hire teenagers.
But that said, I would like a much higher minimum wage on foreign workers. Like, I think if you gave foreign workers, like, you know, minimum $50 an hour or something, or $100 an hour, then you're like, okay, look, like Ajit Pai, head of Google, right? Yeah. I don't know if he's American or Indian, like, citizen. I think he's probably an American citizen by now, right? But let's say... back when let's say he's from India. I'm not sure if that's true, but let's say he's from India, and you're at Google and you're like, I will pay anything to have him, right? Like, because he's clearly a brilliant businessman, brilliant programmer. Like, that is the kind of person you actually want in your country, right? You're like, I will give this guy $100 million a year if he come. Well, nobody would do that, but you know, I'll give this guy like $10 million a year if he'll come here because I need him. That's why, like, that's when you want the immigrants. You're like, I want these people like crazy. And so I think a really high minimum wage is good for that, because then you can say, look, I want the best doctor on earth here. I want the best programmer. I want the best dancer, whatever it might be. And I'm willing to pay for it. Versus, I want cheap labor that's scared to get fired.
That has government subsidies to pay for them.
Yeah. And also, like, you can treat them like slaves because they're terrified to get fired, right? They don't want to go back.
Yeah.
They don't know what happens. That's a mess. Like, forget even having a bad country to go back to. It's just... your whole life gets uprooted and you lose everything. You don't know where you're going to go, where you're going to get, if you can get a job when you get home. It's a nightmare even if your country's nice. Yeah. Right, her next thing then. While the Liberals and Conservatives are protecting billionaires, Yagmeet Singh and I are fighting to make a difference for you. So, I don't like the framing of this because I don't care if they're protecting billionaires, but I do care that they're kowtowing to them. So what I would rather her say, or the party in general, the NDP say, right? Instead of saying, oh, billionaires, they're evil, they're getting protected, rather it be something more along the lines of, well, Trudeau and Carney are furthering the interests of the elites at the expense of the people, right? Yeah. Or they're protecting the billionaires at the expense of the people. Yeah. Right. Like, she doesn't say that, like, Liberals and Conservatives are protecting billionaires, but we're fighting to make a difference for you. It's like, yeah, but who cares if they're protecting billionaires? But if they're saying they're protecting the billionaires by destroying the country, then you're like, oh.
Yeah, but you see, the NDP are communists.
Yeah. Well,
and communists don't like the poor, they hate the rich.
Well, that's the problem here, is that kind of seems to be the angle she's going for, or the party in general, right? Yeah. Is that they're going for the, we hate the rich, rather than saying, oh yeah, we want to look out for you. So I don't like how they do that. And then we've got, what's this? Oh, this is just... the
Pierre's callous conservative cuts they want to alliterate a little bit.
Now this is interesting, actually, because there is only one hate message in the NDP folder, and it is anti-conservative. Yeah. But I think that says something. I think that the NDP is predicting the Conservatives are going to win. Because they didn't dedicate a section to the Liberals, right? Yeah. Like, they have this little line here about how the Liberals are... Yeah. Because I think this is a good argument. Like, the Liberals and Conservatives are protecting billionaires. Like, it's a good start in that they're the same. They're the same. We're the alternative. Except we're not, because Singh just does whatever the Liberals say. Yeah. So, but yeah, this was so bad, it made me want to go and vote for a different party just to make sure that the NDP don't get in. And I was like, I'm going to vote for the Greens or the Conservatives just so the NDP don't.
The Romanian spite vote?
But I don't think I can justify it. Like, the co-leader of the Greens is... Well, if you go to the Greens, like, we want equity and we want...
You can spoil your ballot.
No, you can't.
You can't?
We don't count those in Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's why we have the random party?
Part of it, I guess. We used to count spoiled ballots, but we stopped doing that a few years ago. No. Like when I was working for Elections Canada, we didn't count spoiled ballots. No. If you wrote the wrong name, even if you write in a name, like you're like, oh man, I'd really love Elizabeth May to win or something.
Yeah.
But you can't, but she's not on your party listing.
Yeah.
Doesn't get counted. Or someone, like a local person, you're like, oh yeah, I really want this person. Doesn't get counted. We just throw it out.
So they have to be registered.
They have to be registered, and you have to vote for. You can't even scratch your ballot, and that doesn't get counted. You just get counted as not having voted.
No.
So if you're not going to vote for any of the people, don't even bother showing up because scratching it won't get recorded.
Oh, okay.
You won't. So what it does is it makes our voter participation look lower than it is, and we don't count the scratches. So it's like. So I'm not going to show up. I think is my.
Well, the guy I was going to vote for dropped out.
Yeah, and I would have voted independent if we had an independent.
Yeah.
I liked our independent, and I thought he was good. He was actually he was a small C conservative who cared about the environment, who stood up against the Conservative Party.
The thing is, the current guy that's running for the Conservatives,
He's crazy.
well, he's crazy, but actually, like, now with, like...
No, I like crazy.
Yeah.
He's fun.
Now with experience and age,
Yeah.
Looking at the things he did, I actually respect them. And
No.
I know all the sides of the story as well. And even knowing all the sides of the story, I actually respect him for what he did.
No, I've always liked him, just in terms of I like the craziness of it. I don't think we should say what happened just because,
But because of all that, and it's like, okay, he's the guy who's running. I think I will vote for him because I like him.
Yeah. Essentially, he got in a fight with someone, but we know him and the person he got in the fight with, and they're both crazy. Let's
Yes.
put it that way.
Yes.
Yeah. And so he got in a lot of flack for assaulting one of his people, basically, but it was like, nah, it's...
Yeah.
We know the person.
Like, knowing everything that went down, it's actually kind of epic in some ways.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't think I'll show... Unless I see what you're talking about, where Pierre was actually saying they'll do actually something, maybe. But again, in Canada, we don't actually vote for...
Yeah.
So it gets kind of weird, because we used to have a really good Green Party candidate here. She was a lawyer. She was like this very no-nonsense, like, I will do this, here's my policy, boom, 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 boom. And instead of our current one, which is like, I like people, and I want to do nice things, and I want to be fun. And...
Yeah, one of the problems is the Green Party has changed from what used to be. So Canada had a Green Party like no other country's Green Party.
Well, ours was very conservative.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. So most Green Parties are environmental communists.
Well, it depends. Like the States, their Republican Party used to be very environmentalist.
Yeah, but parties that call themselves Green Parties.
Yeah.
Most of them are environmental communists.
Yeah.
Or environmental socialists.
Yeah.
The Canadian Green Party used to be more conservative than the Conservatives.
Yeah. Well, our Conservatives are not conservative in the slightest.
Yeah, but our Green Party was conservative in the sense of conserving everything. So conserve the environment, conserve the economy, conserve the policies.
Yeah, they were actually really interested in creating jobs and looking at new technology.
Yeah.
And
like their old environmentalism wasn't get rid of all of our oil. It was how can we make our oil as safe and clean as possible, and then how can we give it to countries that have bad oil?
And how can we make renewables more desirable?
Yes, it wasn't get rid of these things. It's let's make the renewables.
Yeah, it wasn't like Germany, just make yourself poor and cold.
Yeah, it was we will have everything, and we will continue to develop the
and we will have such cheap and nice solar and hydro that people will want to switch to it.
Yeah.
The other thing about Canada, which again I don't know if Canadians know well enough, is that we're basically like all our electricity is like hydro and nuclear. Yeah. Like we don't really burn much coal and oil and everything. Like we're hydro, wind. Well, wind's much smaller, but hydro and nuclear is like all our power basically. So we're already a fairly green country as that goes. If you only count CO2.
Yeah.
Again, I have problems with nuclear, but I'm like the only person on Earth apparently, and everyone's going to go poison our planet, and we'll all die in nuclear fire, and everyone but me. And then I get to say, "I told you so." Okay. Ha! Told you. No, well, it's funny though because there's like Chernobyl's protective shielding has been broken in the war, right?
Yeah.
That hasn't woken anyone up. Like, oh, maybe nuclear isn't good. It's like, well, yeah, it was only bad in war. It's like, yeah, and the wars only never happened though, right? Yeah.
So my perspective on the nuclear, which is the counter to your problem with it, which is it's poisonous and it lasts forever.
Yeah.
Is this a problem we have forever to deal with?
Well, I don't believe in humanity's ability.
You don't believe in techno-safism.
Yeah, I don't believe...
It's not... I can't remember the proper name of that philosophy, but it's basically a philosophy that technology will save us in the future.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of nuclear advocates believe, right? We'll figure out the solution to the waste problem.
Yeah, my perspective on it is I'm actually not that worried about the waste problem because of how little waste is produced, as long as you're not selling the waste to the mafia to throw into the river.
But look at, like, Chernobyl. That's a huge... That's a whole district that's poison and people can't go into, right?
There's nuclear pigs.
Yeah, that's not good.
We did a podcast on the nuclear pigs.
That's not good.
The nuclear super pigs.
And then look at Fukushima. Yeah. Fukushima, that was the waste tank that broke. Yeah. That wasn't the reactor. That was the waste place. So that's how much damage that can do, right? Yeah. Like poisoned...
And Long Island.
Long Island, I don't... That was actually the reactor broke, I believe, in that case. But they were actually able to contain it as well. Yeah. So that place didn't get poisoned, but it was almost a disaster. They had to evacuate and everything.
Yeah.
But
Wolverine fought Deadpool there.
Ah, that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
But the Chernobyl, in the war, its shielding has been damaged. You know, the shielding that killed, like, a whole lot of... didn't kill them, but a whole lot of people went to build that shielding, and their lifespan shortened by, like, 18 years or something. Yeah. Because... I can't remember what it was. It was like for every hour you spent on the roof, like your lifespan shortened by like a year or something. Like, there's a lot of radiation in that space. And now that shielding's been damaged in the fighting. Yeah. So they're going to have to go in and fix it again, and it's causing problems. And that is something that will happen in all wars. Like, if Russia invades France has a huge amount of nuclear power. Yeah. I mean, there'd be bigger problems because Germany's should have stopped that in the first place. Yeah. But if France and Germany go to fight again because they love fighting each other, that's a lot of nuclear power plants that are suddenly going to be in harm's way, and humans also could knock themselves back to the Stone Age, and then they have forever deal with the problem, but there's no more humans to deal with it.
There's actually, this is something terrifying, is China cannot go to war with a country with sophisticated bombers.
Because they have so much nuclear?
No, the Five Gorge Dam.
Oh, well, nobody would do that, surely. That would be...
But China literally cannot go to war with a country with sophisticated bombers.
Against psychopaths, yeah. Like...
Well, it would destroy China. It would actually probably be the single largest death event in human history.
Is that on the Yellow River?
Yes, that holds back the Yellow River. And
holds back the Yellow River. Nothing holds back the Yellow River for long.
Yeah, and they've built in the floodplain that they opened up. So there's huge amounts of cities there.
Have you been
So the Five Gorge Dam was built as a communist project to produce power and also to be one of the big communist mega projects. It's constantly under repair and trying to keep it intact.
Yeah. Have you? Are you a connoisseur of the Chinese Yellow River memes? Like, it's, stuff like Chinese history is some emperor gathers together the largest army ever. All the people love him. He goes on revolution. Yellow River decides he shouldn't be king. Flips its course and kills like 1 million people. Yeah. Because that is Chinese history, is the Yellow River killing like 1 million Chinese people on a whim.
Yeah, and so the Five Gorge Dam is the hubris of the Communist Party trying to contain it.
Well, that already happened before. Like, there was a dam on it, I don't know, like 40 years ago maybe, that broke and it killed like 100,000 people or something. Like, it was ridiculous.
So the estimate now for the Five Gorge Dam is over tens of millions.
Yeah, it's not the biggest river on Earth, but it's probably the killiest.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Is it like flat in that
region?
It's a
floodplains that's in a valley.
Right, so it can just switch its course really easily.
Yeah, and it's flat, so it's great for farming. It's where they produce all their food. But unlike the Nile, which very slowly meanders to the left, which is what the Nile does, the Five Gorge Dam just decides, I'm going to kill everyone.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm going over here now. And it can move. Like, it's like, is it like hundreds of kilometers that just can flip on a dime, basically? Yes. It's like, no, I'm over here now. Yeah. Yeah, but if someone... Jeez, that'd be horrifying.
Yeah, so that's... Like, China has the biggest vulnerability ever. There is memes right now on that, actually, of the tariff war between them. And it shows just, like, a single bomber. It's just pictures of, like, that V-shaped stealth bomber just flying over the Five Gorge Dam.
Yeah, that... I don't like nuclear weapons, right? Like, because they're not a military weapon. They're a citizen targeting weapon, right? And... That's the same thing right there. That's nasty. Yeah. Although, it's very Isengard, isn't it? Like, if you could get, like, all the Chinese... No. The Chinese could do this Isengard style. So, the Russians and the Indians have teamed up, and they have 1 million troops each right below the dam, and they're ready to take over China. And then China presses the button on the dam, and the dam goes down and washes them all away, and then the Chinese Ents stand in the stream and like hold firm and destroys them all. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be horrifying all the same. Like that would still be millions of soldiers dying.
Yeah.
But if it, like how Yusun Shin defeated the Japanese Navy.
Yeah.
That was with big water. That was.
Yeah. Naval history, besides the one historical event, becomes like the impossible victories become kind of lame when it's.
I don't know. I think knowing the terrain, knowing that they're
or not knowing the terrain, Spanish Armada.
Yeah, or the Mongolian.
Well, the biggest naval battle in history was in the Punic War.
Wasn't it between the Japanese and the Americans?
No, it was the Punic War.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was so many ships they could no longer maneuver, and because they could no longer maneuver, that gave the Romans the advantage.
What about that time you had all those European ships and I had all those canoes in Age of Empires 3? That was a lot of boats.
The Punic War's naval battle was actually absurd. Like, there's never been that many boats on the water and that many people in them. And that happened back in the Punic Wars.
World War II must be bigger,
Nope.
surely. Must have been like the biggest until World War II.
No, it's the biggest in history. That's what's so absurd about it.
You know that, what was it? It was like Armenia versus Portugal or something. It was in the Adriatic Sea, I believe. Yeah. And there was, how did that work? There was a movie made around that time where they were depicting all the battles from that time. But they didn't depict this boat battle because it was so unrealistic that they didn't want to depict it. Because basically the Armenians or whoever, not the Armenians, sorry, Albanians or something. Yeah. It was some Balkan nation, I think. Yeah. I don't remember which one. They had a bunch of ironclads. So this was around like 1800s-ish. Yeah. Maybe late 1700s. Yeah. They had a bunch of ironclads. And they were up against the Portuguese or the Italians or something who had wooden ships. Yeah. The wooden ships won decisively. And it was like they were outnumbered by ironclads and they won. They sunk like 3 ironclads.
How? Ironclads couldn't sink each other.
And it was it was such a bad disaster. I think
there was a battle in the American Civil War that took place on the Mississippi River, which was 2 ironclads floated up to each other and fired at each other until they ran out of ammo. And then they both turned around and went back to port.
So the ironclads forgot to have ammo on the ship, which was part of the problem. And then they panicked when they saw the ships firing on them, and so they retreated. Or, no, I think they were trying to maneuver out of position or something. And that caused a retreat from the other ships. And then the wooden ships rammed one of the ironclads and put a hole in it and sunk it. And like everything that could go wrong went wrong for them, basically. And they lost, which was...
Historically, if you look at the worst wars in history, in the top 10, 6 of them are Chinese civil wars.
Yeah, at least, I bet.
Yeah, so you're not voting. You're a filthy not participator in democracy.
Well, who am I going to vote for?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be the Greens or the Conservatives, I guess. And that tells you something about Canadian politics right there. What I like about the Greens is when there was the CRTC Canadian content law getting passed to destroy YouTube, or, well, weaken Canadian YouTube, let's say.
Yeah.
When all the parties were voting for it, all the Liberals voted for this. All the Conservatives voted against. All the NDP voted for. The Greens were split. That's what the beauty of the Green Party.
Yeah.
They vote against each other.
Yes.
Because they come from wildly different backgrounds. Some of them are like hippies.
Insane hippies.
Some of them are socialists. Some of them are hyper-conservative lawyers.
Some of them are crazy old ladies who get drunk and then speak at press conferences.
Some of them are like businessmen that just think, this is how we make money, we gotta make money, let's switch over to this much more profitable enterprise of because solar has gotten, it's doubled in effectiveness and halved in costs
every 7 years.
I think it's every 2 years. Like,
oh yeah, it's every 2 years, yeah.
Like it's gotten so much better. I think it's approaching or has approached like the theoretical limit at this point, but it's improved so much so fast that you can't actually invest in solar. If you buy a solar panel for it to pay off, it's actually cheaper to not buy the solar panel and buy it later.
Yeah. Because
basically the technology... So if you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a 100-watt solar panel, and then in 20 years this thing will pay off, right? And so you wait 2 years, and then the 100-watt solar panel at that point is so much cheaper and pays off so much faster than the previous one. You would have been better to never have bought one. So the best time to buy solar is never, because it gets cheaper. Like, if you want to invest in... So if you want to start investing in solar right now, you should, because it's a way better technology than basically anything else. And the best time to buy it is never, because it gets better so fast. Which, it's like, what do you do with that? That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's funny. And hydro produces ridiculous amounts of energy. Geothermal produces ridiculous amounts of energy. We don't have good geothermal surveying yet, but there's countries like Iceland that just they melt. They have heated sidewalks, because why not?
They have so much power.
You have infinite energy. Why not?
Yeah.
And Canada, we have a lot of geothermal available. Not volcanic geothermal like in Iceland, but radioactive geothermal.
We have radioactive geothermal, and we have the other kind. We have the third kind, which is just hot. It's not volcanic, but it's just hot areas of the ground.
Because of uranium? Or radon, or what?
Sorry, no, it's non-volcanic. It's just...
Yeah, so radioactive then, surely.
No, so volcanic is from pressure and heat.
Well, from magma and stuff.
Yeah, so this is just hot ground. So are the hot springs...
No, they're radioactive.
Are hot springs radioactive?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So...
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Our ground is the water is heated by magic rocks.
Yeah. Well, dust, I think, here, but yeah. Deadly dust.
Yes.
Hard to put basements in. But the, all the hot springs in the Yukon, I believe, are radioactive.
We should get on that.
Yeah, well, there has been some stuff looking into it.
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, so, we'll get there someday.
It's been going for 20 years, another 20 years, and they'll be done.
Yeah. I think all of it. I'm not sure about... Because the Ring of Fire is, like, more Alaska, right? So I don't think we have any... But
I recently found out about the Ring of Fire. Do you know how epic that place is?
But, I mean, it's just a lot of volcanoes in a circle. Well, in a more of a...
The resources in it.
Oh, because...
It's like everything. It has everything in it.
Like, maybe, like, over by, what is it called? Whitechapel? Is that... No, what's the name of that mountain in Alaska?
I don't know.
Anyways, that's a volcano.
Yeah.
And that's near the border with the Yukon, so maybe we have more volcanic stuff there. But I think basically everything else is radioactive. But hydro produces a huge amount of power. However, it's very bad for the environment.
Yeah.
And it's also bad...
for the geography.
Yeah, it's bad. It also has a disadvantage.
Whitehorse is named after this very cool section of rapids, which if you looked at, it looked like horses' manes. That no longer exists.
Yeah, there's a picture of it.
Yeah.
I think there's one picture, but there's a picture of the rapids before they were dammed.
Yeah.
But it also, as I understand it, isn't permanent. Like, dams always have to be maintained.
Yes.
They're not just a... I guess that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of pressure there.
So on that, actually, one of the few structures that will last for all time.
Yeah.
That Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
Apparently, even without maintenance, it might not produce power anymore. But long after humans are gone, the Hoover Dam will be in place, and because of that, it's got these plaques carved into it, like most instructional materials we can get, which show star charts of when it was built.
Oh.
So even if you don't understand our language or anything, you can look at the star charts, you can look at the stars, and then you can basically calculate of when this thing was built.
Like a Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
That's cool. What was the Rushmore? Rushmore is another one that's supposed to last a long time.
Yes.
Because there's no rain, very little wind.
Yeah.
No earthquakes, no volcanoes. And it's the size of a mountain, so it's hard to wear away.
Looking forward to the fifth head on it.
Oh, Pierre Poilievre?
No, the Trump.
No, Pierre Poilievre will be the governor of Canada when... Okay, actually, speaking of that, there seems to be some people that are genuinely concerned about Canada's sovereignty from the United States. Like, they're actually worried the United States is going to try to take over Canada unless we have Carney come in and protect us or something, right? And do you think that is in the slightest, an option for Canada to... Because I really don't think Canada's going to be taken over by the States.
I think...
Unless we, ask them to.
I think that potentially in the next 40 years, Canada will no longer be a country.
Wow. Why?
Because of the way Canada is set up and the strong divide between the West and the East, if that is not dealt with, then Canada will tear into pieces.
Right. So it might, balkanize a little.
Yeah, Canada is close to balkanizing.
But I don't think the States would be the one to take us. Do you?
Oh no, the States would take territories because they could give them really good offers once it balkanizes.
So like they'd be like, hey Cascadia, hey Alberta, you want to join? And then hey Quebec, you want to? No, you stay over there. That's fine. Yeah. I think Quebec. It's kind of funny because Quebec does have an identity that's very strong, very deep seated. Like
it's fuck you, Canada.
I can't imagine the United States taking over Quebec.
Yeah.
Like you know how what is it?
No, this is how it'll go. So PP takes over, right?
Yeah.
And his Machiavellian schemes has come to fruition that everyone's scared of, and he's selling Canada to America.
Yeah.
And part of the deal is, though, he has to really piss off the Quebecers.
Yeah.
So they separate from Canada before Canada is acquired by the States, because they do not want Quebec.
I heard there is Alaskan country. What do you call those things that aren't countries? Cities.
Yeah.
There's Alaskan cities that are having troubles with the tariffs because they rely a lot on Canada for the stuff they get.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's cheaper to send by road than by...
well, they get it all from British Columbia.
By a boat. Yeah, which I find strange. Like, you'd think boats would be cheaper than roads, but...
I can explain to you why that is. It's because it's only worthwhile shipping stuff by boats if you have massive shipping containers going through the canal systems to the maximum trade areas.
Right.
And so anything extra that isn't to any of the major ports, which Alaska doesn't have...
well, they do have a lot of big ports. They're just not for goods, really.
Yeah, so, but any place that's not set up to take shipping in is not worthwhile to go to in relative comparison. And so if you're going to do that, you hike up your prices to a really large extent. Because it's only worthwhile going through PAMA, going to like the certain ports in Canada, certain ports in America, certain ports in Europe. Anything extra, you could be making more money elsewhere. And because you could be making more money elsewhere, you have to raise your prices.
Yeah, well, there you go. But so they're
whereas with trucks are going to drive no matter what.
They're having troubles with tariffs apparently because like they rely on Canada for a lot of stuff. So what I was thinking was that if they can't afford for Canadians to have tariffs on them and for them to have tariffs on us, because they rely so much on us for the stuff they need, then the Alaskan Panhandle and maybe all of Alaska should just join Canada.
All right. I have a proposal for the United States.
Yeah. We will Quebec.
No, we will give you Canada.
Yeah.
If you give us Alaska.
Wait, how does that work? We can't give them all of... just the territories in Alaska or something?
No. We get Alaska.
Yeah.
And so the 50th state disappears.
Right.
And the 51st state is Canada. And
With
the part
Alaska.
of the 51st state is Alaska.
Okay, even better offer. The States gets Ontario, we get Alaska.
No, my offer is they get all Canada, but Alaska belongs to Canada, so we can finally have it.
I don't want to be part of the States though. So I want Alaska, and they can have Ontario.
This is actually something interesting. So any province in Canada at any point can have a referendum to vote to leave Canada.
Yeah.
The territories aren't provinces. So hypothetically, every single province, including Ontario, could leave Canada. And then Canada would be the territories. And the territories would belong to the crown. And the territories wouldn't be able to do anything because of their status.
So they'd be British.
Yes. No, so the easiest default, like you think the easiest default is they go to one of the provinces? No, the easiest default, legally, is they would go to the UK.
Hail Britannia.
Which is such a weird law thing that I feel like, could we get them adjusted just a little bit?
We should do that. That sounds fun.
Well, if the Northwest Passage opens up, we could have a lot more people living in Resolute.
Yeah, and other places like that. Like, especially Nunavut with all their... Well, Nunavut would probably flood.
Yeah.
There'd probably be no places left in Nunavut.
And the tips...
And WT would be a good place to be.
Yeah, and the tip of Yukon.
Yeah, like Herschel Island and that sort of thing. Yeah.
We could have a lot more population up there.
The Yukon Plains would be where people would probably live. There's like this big...
Yeah, if you go far enough north in the Yukon, there's this really nice area.
Yeah.
It's just cold.
Well, it's kind of a swamp. I mean,
it's cold and really hard to get to.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a swamp. It's a frozen bog.
Well, it's a delta, right? So there's like rivers everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can build on those.
I guess. Well, not exactly. If it's permafrost that is melting, it'll destroy it.
No, but once it's all melted.
Yeah, you have to wait a while.
Yeah.
Let it warm up a bit.
But then you'll find the Northwest Passage. Oh, so, because you don't really watch back the videos, when you break into seeing the Northwest Passage,
yeah.
I sang it 4 different times at 4 different pitches, and then layered it on there, so we actually have... we have the quartet. Sorry, I did it 3 times, so we have the quartet.
That's fun. I like that.
You also sang the lyrics wrong.
Yeah.
Like, really wrong.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So I sang them correctly.
I sang them better. I think that, he didn't know what he was doing. But, oh, Ford. I can't sing right now. Yeah. I guess we should wrap it there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who are you going to vote for?
I'm going to vote Conservative.
Yeah. Fair enough.
In for the penny, in for the pound. And my biggest concern with it is the Conservatives do get a majority. And they actually try to fix stuff. Because this is worse than if the Conservatives get in with a majority and they do nothing. And they suck, they're terrible. And then they lose and the Liberals get in and the Liberals do nothing. That will accelerate the collapse of Canada. And that won't be a good thing.
Yeah. But
something will get done. Now, my big concern is the Conservatives get in and they try to fix things. And they actually do fix a lot. But they appear to not have done anything. And then another election comes by and the Liberals win. And that's just a tragedy.
I think they might just be more of... I think
more of the same.
If they're more the same, yeah. Because Harper wasn't that different from Trudeau in a lot of ways. And kind of... Now, this is interesting here. Support an optional First Nations resource charge that enables First Nations to take back control of their resources and money. See, that's actually someone saying, hey, what if you have control of your resources?
That's actually really useful. That's a good thing.
No, I agree. This is what...
Well, I'll tell you an exact reason why that's useful and important. Is there was a subdivision that was getting built. You know...
yeah, I know the one.
Yeah, that subdivision. And it's frozen because they realized they're not allowed to sell that land. Because the whole idea, the whole project, was they were going to build a massive subdivision. It's all First Nations land. And they were going to sell it to people, so there's this whole new subdivision and people could live there. And the problem is, they're not allowed to sell that land. They'd have to lease it, and no one will buy a lease in Canada, because that goes fundamentally against Canadians.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... and British people, it's funny.
Well, British people have leases, though.
But they don't like them.
Yeah.
There was... I saw, it was like in downtown... It was like... Was it near London or something? It was like this giant, like, 2 acres of land, or 1 acre of land, you know, near London sort of thing. And it was this humongous, like, mansion, but it was a bunker. It was an underground bunker. It was huge, and it was going for super cheap, like, you know, like, I don't remember what it was, maybe £500,000 or something.
And it was a 90-year lease?
It was a 99-year lease, yeah. So nobody wanted it. They're like, oh, you're not buying land. You're just...
Yeah, you're just getting a lease.
You're just getting a lease. You don't own it.
Yeah.
And it was still pretty expensive, obviously, for a windowless cell.
But that would be brilliant if they could actually, like, control their resources and sell them to anyone.
Yeah, and actually get the money from it as well when they sold it.
Yeah, get the money for it, sell it, stop it all being frozen. And then we could stop doing stupid land acknowledgements.
Or, here's even better. The Conservatives and the Liberals virtue signal back and forth enough that the First Nations have all the power. And then we have people who actually have a clue about what they're doing in charge instead.
No. They virtue signal back and forth so much that they've turned into a pulsar. And,
Infinite free energy.
No, it's not fair. Like, Carney and Pierre fuse together into a single entity. So, you know, the back of the head of Voldemort?
Yeah.
It's that entity. And it's...
No, but I actually like the idea of the First Nations just slowly getting more and more powers. These people try to one-up each other.
Don't, because unfortunately most of the First Nation governments are extremely corrupt. Like the Yukon has one of the least corrupt.
Yeah, I like the ones here. Like,
yeah, ours.
we have multiple.
That's one of the reasons why ours aren't as corrupt. Is we have multiple, but like in British Columbia, and Alberta, and Quebec, and Ontario, those First Nations are highly corrupt. And
like I've met at least one of the chiefs, and I really liked her.
One of my friends is a spokesperson for the First Nations in Canada and here.
I've met 2 of the chiefs, and they're both...
Yeah.
One of the chiefs I didn't even know was a chief, because... Well, actually, both of them I didn't know when I was just talking to them, and they were both like, we were just hanging out having a good time, and then it's like, oh yeah, this person's like this huge policy maker, and like, you know, they're great. I like them. Yeah. And I like what they have to say, and they're very conservative. Like, the First Nations here are very... Yeah. They have,
No, they would love to be able to control their resources.
They also have a lot of knowledge that, like, of how the world works, let's say. Like, of medicine and animals and that sort of thing. They don't share with anyone because they're concerned people, if they learn it, will use it to exploit the land and the animals. And, like, you know, you learn that, let's say, old man's beard cures cancer.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have all these giant industries come in and start tearing down all our trees and harvesting all our old man's beard, and their forests are stripped clean, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being able to cure the people as you meet them and help them out.
Yeah.
But instead, the species goes extinct because people... So the First Nations, they're very careful about, like, okay, we're going to take this slow, and they do have a lot of knowledge. Like, now the risk is that you lose the knowledge.
Yeah.
But they are a very cautious group up here, which I appreciate. And they also are very able to incorporate new models of the world into their model without abandoning their model, which I think is neat. Which is especially fascinating because apparently the Athabascans, like the northern Athabascans, like the northern Gwich'in, they think that if you are a deviant, like you invent a different sort of bow, for instance, you should be put to death. But somehow they also love, like, oh, here's this new arrowhead is amazing, this new bow is amazing. So I don't know how those work, but it is neat. That was in the old days that they put you to death. I don't think they do that anymore. But yeah, I gotta get going, so ciao.